all that bad. Let me bring in Jeff Risdon down in Indianapolis. Covers the Lions for Lions Wire. You can follow him on Twitter at Jeff Risdon, at RealGM. Jeff, thanks so much for the time.
My pleasure being with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Hey, before I look at the Lions, I want to look back to earlier in the week when it seems like it was a huge deal with Jalen Carter earlier in the week. Now that he's back, what was it like earlier in the week when Jalen Carter left the combine, and now that he's back, what was that all like? What can you tell us about that?
Oh, man, it was a crazy situation. So we didn't know the full details until we were already gathered around his podium. So when we were gathering for the podium, like there was 8 or 9 of them that are down there, and you stand in front of different guys, and they all speak at the same time. Well, his podium just swole. It was the biggest podium crowd I've ever seen outside of Tim Tebow, who remains the biggest celebrity I've ever seen. But it was crazy, and nobody knew what was going on. You know, is he here? Is he going to talk? What are the charges? What do we know about these things? And anytime you get, I'm going to say probably 400 to 500 reporters standing around with idle time and no real facts, you're going to get some very crazy theories that go on. And it was one of the more entertaining, weirdly stressful mornings that I've ever experienced at Combine. This is my 16th time down here, and I can't recall anything like that before.
And then obviously today his Georgia teammate Stetson Bennett addressed his situation as well. It seems like off the field situations are almost every bit as important as what happens on the field or happened on the field. What can you tell us about the Stetson Bennett situation, the scuttlebutt there?
He's just got he's made some poor choices, and I think he needs to acknowledge his poor choices. He chose to get drunk with friends, basically, instead of going to the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl. And the chance to, when he had a chance to show what he could do for NFL scouts, he chose to go the opposite direction. And it's very difficult for him to go through some damage control right now. Remember, he's also the oldest player in this draft. That doesn't help his stock anymore either. He's also small. There's a whole lot of things pointing against Stetson Bennett. He's basically trying to do the best damage control that he can.
Hey, Jeff, let me ask you about the Detroit Lions now. Obviously, you cover the Lions, so I want to stick with that team for a little bit.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. Use your words.
Everybody else backs away. That's great.
Have been very high on Anthony Richardson. I just taking a quarterback. It was revealed that Anthony Richardson, the Lions were one of the teams that had a formal meeting and interview with Anthony Richardson.
And followed him all year.
The likelihood that the Lions take a quarterback that high. What do you read between the tea leaves, between the meeting with Richardson and what you've heard from Campbell and Holmes this week?
Well, first of all, I will tell you that I don't think we need to worry about Anthony Richardson because he ain't going to be there at 6.
I said that too, yes!
If he does what we expect him to do tomorrow night, he will be the odds-on favorite to be the number 1 overall pick, ahead of Stroud, ahead of Bryce Young. He's that magnanimous of a talent.
Wow.
I got a chance to watch him throw just a little bit. He's got everything you can want. He throws like a more accurate Cam Newton, and I know his stats don't reflect that at Florida, but you got to take into account that's the worst Florida team in a very long time. They went through a coaching change that had a lot of misfit pieces for that offense, and misfit pieces with him. He's really, really physically impressive. He's a lot smarter and a lot more ready than I think most people are, and the NFL is going to catch on to that this weekend. So we're going to be talking a lot about Anthony Richardson in Lions land, but it's all going to be moot because that guy will be gone before they get a chance to take a crack at him.
That is absolutely an enormous statement, and I couldn't agree more with you, Jeff. I thought that and said that earlier in the week. I don't think the Lions are going to have a choice to pick him at 6. What is it about this kid's tools that teams... Vegas put out odds of being the number 1 pick a couple of months ago, 100 to 1, and then it came to 20 to 1. And this week, odds on Anthony Richardson are 7 to 1 to be the number 1 pick.
Yeah, it's definitely raising. Now, I wouldn't guarantee that he would go number 1 because I think there's still a pretty good chance that Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud also get in there. But he has clearly moved into the number 3 quarterback position, and there will be 3 quarterbacks taken before Detroit picks. Whether it's the teams that are there now or teams trading up. If not, then the Lions are certainly in a spot where at number 6, they can take the number 3 quarterback, or they can trade out of that pick to a team like Carolina or anybody else trying to come up, really. Washington, if they want to come up. Those are definite options. Honestly, so to answer your question in the last one a little bit, I think that if they were presented with the chance of taking C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, I'm not sold that they would do it. I don't know what they would do. My guess would be that they would probably trade that out and get as many assets as they could and build up the team a little bit more, and then maybe address quarterback a little bit later, which I kind of think that they're going to do anyways. That's been my read on it, and that's been the read of a lot of people that are down here. They are not just looking at the top of the quarterbacks. They're looking at that next tier and the next tier after that. Guys like Jalen Hall from BYU, Aiden O'Connell from Purdue. And I know that Lions fans are instantly rolling their eyes and thinking, "Oh my God, don't give me these guys."
Clayton Tune.
Yeah, Clayton Tune he's actually a guy who I believe they are meeting with today. I can't confirm that though. I got to talk to my Houston peeps on that. But
I like Clayton Tune.
he can play. I saw him down in Mobile. He's got some ability to him. So you're looking at a guy then who's going to be a career backup. They're a long-term number 2 quarterback. They need that. Whether it's a veteran that they bring in or a draft pick like that. But that would sort of, then you're getting into a situation where you have fully committed to having Jared Goff be your quarterback for not just 2023, but beyond that. And if he plays in 2023 the way he played in the end of 2022 when the team surged up, he's going to make a lot more money than he's making now, and that changes your team dynamics. So that's where you're at with the quarterbacks. But yeah, they have absolutely done a lot of work on Anthony Richardson. They saw him, I believe, 6 times. I know they saw him 5 times. Brad Holmes did go see him once. Brad doesn't get out much. He actually talked about that in his combine interview. He didn't like to get out. He likes to let his scouts do his work, and he goes about his work his own way. So yeah, there's some definite interest there. And they weren't going there to watch Osiris Torrance or Ventrell Miller or my guy Richard Gurridge, a 7th round offensive tackle. They're looking at Anthony Richardson down there.
So Jeff, let me ask you this then: if the 3 quarterbacks are going to go, and I believe you, Will Levis is going to go too. So that means in the top 4 picks, or 4 out of 5 picks, that's quarterbacks. So guess who drops to the Lions? Who drops to them? Jalen Carter? Will Anderson? Do we actually have a chance to draft one of those kids?
Anderson is unlikely, although it's not inconceivable that he would fall. He is the presumptive number 1 defensive pick. The whole Jalen Carter thing, nobody really knows what to do with him, to be honest with you. If I will say this, and I've said this a couple times now, if his court case is not cleared by the draft, he's going undrafted. You cannot be a GM on the hook for a guy who's going to jail for potentially 2 years. Even if you believe that he's going to be exonerated, even if you believe that he's going to get cleared, you can't have that. You can't be that GM at that press conference. Imagine Brad Holmes stepping up to a press conference after he's been sentenced to 2 years in prison. Like, you just spent the number 6 pick on a guy that's going to be in jail for 2 years, and you know that's not something that any GM is going to do. So the timing with Jalen Carter's court case matters tremendously. I don't know how fast the wheels of justice spin down there in Athens, Georgia, but in the state of Michigan, it would probably drag out a lot longer than the 6.5 weeks that he's got until the draft. So keep an eye on that, because that's one that you got to look at. So then what do you do if it's the Lions at 6? You take a cornerback. Which cornerback? Do you take an offensive lineman? Which offensive lineman? There's a whole lot of variables there that, and I feel the derision in your voice, man. It's not what you want.
Jeff, the only guy I'm drafting out of jail is Paul Crew. But here we go. Here's a different take on this draft. You like that one? You gotta like that one, Paul Crew. Well, he already got drafted. I probably will lose my draft pick for drafting him. 3 draft picks. We have 6, 18, 48. Which one of those, in your mind, is the most important? I'll go first. I think it's 18.
I don't disagree with you, because I think it's going to be really hard to not get a good player at 6. it is harder to find a good player that's going to be able to contribute right away at 18. And again, we don't know what position group we know their needs. We know what type of players they're looking for. We just got to figure out which guys it is. But that's getting in the range where you're finding guys that, okay, this was a dude that was projected to be in the top 10 for a while and he's fallen for whatever reason, or it's a guy who's bubbled up because he's had a good week down here in Indy or a great pro day, and now he's surged up the boards when he thought he was going to be there in the 30s. Like, that's the danger zone there. So I'm with you. I think 18 is a dangerous pick because there are expectations with it from being a first-round pick, but it's also kind of that gray area where, like, you're not sure what you're going to get.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, I wanted to ask you about these defensive backs, these cornerbacks that seemingly get mocked to the Lions with every mock draft. Are the Lions in a position to just draft for need, or did they just flat out take the best player available unless it's a quarterback that they feel like they can develop? I see a lot of these big boards, ESPN, Fox, that have, whether it's Weatherspoon or Gonzalez, like the 6th, 14th, 15th, 16th best player in the draft. Do you reach on that at 6?
It's a tough sell. Devon Witherspoon came in a little bit lighter than expected. I think he was 187. That's a little bit on the light side. Now he's got a lot of dog in him. And if you want a stylistic Lion, that's your dude. That guy is going to go out and he will do exactly what Dan Campbell and Aaron Graham want their defense to do. So he would be probably the favorite for that. But yeah, I mean, 6 is tough. I like both of those. I like all the guys you mentioned actually, but none of those guys are Sauce Gardner coming out.
Not at all.
And that's where you get into a range. And again, that's sort of the issue is what do you do with 6? Because there's not anybody that screams, just take me, unless it's a quarterback. And we really don't know whether it's a quarterback or not. I cannot say that enough. But I would suspect that they would probably punt on that and try to trade back to 9 or 12 or 15 or something like that. It's tough, man.
Hey, Jeff, one question about these quarterbacks. We sit up here and we talk, if Bryce Young is there, you got to take him. C.J. Stroud is there, you got to take him. We love Anthony Richardson, you got to take him. We never mentioned anything about Will Levis. If these 3 quarterbacks are gone and Will Levis is staring them in the face.
I'm taking him.
Will Levis is staring them in the face. Do they like him enough to, and he is going to throw tomorrow?
He is going to throw, and he will throw very well. He does have a rocket launcher of a shoulder. It's not always the most accurate, but it's impressive. And he's got a few more drawbacks than the other guys. He's older. He did transfer and transferred out because he lost his job. Just didn't play that well. Has had some schematic issues with the offense. That they changed their offense to Kentucky while he was there, and it didn't necessarily go all that well for him. It's hard to say that they would take him, again, because he's a little bit older. He's not necessarily a developmental guy. He's a guy that you kind of want to get on the field right away. He is more like, and I don't want to peg him negatively like this, like Zach Wilson was coming out of BYU as the number 2 pick for the Jets. I'm not saying that he's like that, like as a player, skill-wise, but like that's the type of talent that you're going after there. And hopefully whoever drafts Will Levis, whether it's the Lions or not, and it probably isn't, I hope it works a lot better for them than it did for the people taking the Mormon Manziel.
Jeff Risdon, he is live in Indianapolis covering the NFL Combine, covers the Lions for Lions Wire. You can follow him on Twitter at Jeff Risdon, at RealGM. Jeff, we cannot thank you enough. We love talking to you, my man. So thanks so much for joining us here on Woodward Sports Network.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
You got it.